And I always been fascinated by those kind of people who are really looking forward to have a great impact. Whether you are in every profession, you can have those kind of people. And those are the people who challenge society somehow, who see things before and put society in a different situation, because changing doesn't come easy, never come easy. Nowadays, it's much more accepted, I would say. But in the past, that was not the case. So all the people who are driving the change were questioned by society, and they find themselves in a very difficult situation.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. We are in Italy with Massimiliano Magrini, founder and managing partner of United Ventures. Massimiliano has always worked at the intersection of business and technology, that being the thread across his career from launching the operations of Altavista and Google Italy as founding country manager to creating an avant-garde VC studio in 2009 and then co-founding in 2013 United Ventures, the Milan-based independent venture capital firm investing in the digital technologies. Today, Massimiliano's mission is to back extraordinary founders along their journey to build great companies, from the early to the growth stage. He provides strategic guidance to portfolio companies and leads the investment thesis on game-changing technologies aimed at the creation of long-term value. Massimiliano Magrini, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me here and for inviting me to your beautiful offices. I'm not sure if we can see the Duomo, perhaps behind the wall there, but we're in the center of Milan, and I'm in one of the most prosperous venture capital firms in Milan, and your history with venture capital, but with tech, the tech ecosystem in general is phenomenal, and your understanding of the tech ecosystem in Milan is amazing, and I'm excited to pick your brain in these 20 minutes. Massimiliano, who are you?
Actually, I just want to say that this building in particular was the home of the worker of the Duomo.
Really?
This building, yeah.
This building. Okay, so who are you, Massimiliano?
So actually, as you said, I'm the co-founder of United Ventures, today one of the largest VC in Italy. We started back in 2012. And we started just because before that, I was an angel investor. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that when you are an angel investor, you always think that there are venture capital being able to pick up on the right things that you are investing in. But unfortunately, in 2012, there was not enough venture capital in Italy. So basically, we transformed my activity as an angel investor. We joined forces with my actual partner that was doing VC before, and we built United Ventures. That the name itself tells the story of two entities combining themselves into United Ventures.
So the greater context here is we're in Italy, we're in Milan. What does the tech ecosystem look like in Italy, both in terms of the startup scene but also the venture capital scene?
Sure. I mean, I think in every ecosystem there is one city that somehow bring that critical mass and becoming the national hub. In that sense, Milan is the Italian national hub, like Madrid is in Spain, or France is in Paris is in France, or London used to be actually at continental level. The thing is that in Italy, we are, I think, where maybe Israel was in more than 10 years ago. I mean, where there is a growing ecosystem, there are all the components right now. And you can think of Italy like the emerging country within an emerging continent. Wow. That's the way I look at Italy right now.
And so what does that tangibly mean, an emerging country within an emerging continent?
Because there is a misallocation between entrepreneurial talent and venture capital availability. So if you compare Italy to I would say, friends from Spain or France, we have 10 to 20 times less venture capital availability to entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And you cannot say that we are 10 to 20% less entrepreneurial than the Spanish or the French entrepreneurs. So there is a misallocation that we think is a great opportunity in reality.
So the way that you're approaching it, so you're saying this is a temporary scene because obviously we have amazing people in both places. Yet the discrepancy and the gap between the amount of capital, that's just a matter of time until somebody picks up on it, and we're going to be the ones to pick up on it.
Exactly. And the one thing that really can inflate this process is having strong local investor, lead investor, who can definitely bridge the opportunity to the other international investor. And that's basically the DNA of United Ventures right now.
So where do you come from? You're a local from Italy, right?
I was born in Italy, yes.
And how do you grow up into the tech world? Because that's not a trivial thing to do, right?
Yeah. I turned into a technological multinational company back in 2000 when there was the bubble, basically, back then. And I was there in 2000 when everybody was going up, and then all of a sudden everything went down. But I stayed there. I joined first Altavista, which was the first search engine at the time, and afterward I joined Google in 2002. I stayed the course of the industry when nobody was really thinking that the industry would have picked up once again. And that suddenly happened. Google went public, and then Facebook went public, and everybody realized that there was a future for the tech scene. And that's basically my background. I used to work for technology company that at the time were startups, and then they grew up to become large corporation.
Right, and so you're leaving Google in 2009. You're starting, you're investing actively, and you start United Ventures in 2012, right? And now we're in 2021, and you have a multitude of funds from very early also to growth, and you're able to write significant check sizes here in the industry. And you mentioned that most of your investments are local within Italy, but you also do some outside, right?
Yeah, the core thesis where we started was to back Italian entrepreneur willing to build global company. And that's where we started. And then we invested also in a company based in London, based in the US. We invested in a company based in Israel that moved eventually in the US. We can say 60% of our core thesis is still around Italian entrepreneurs willing to build global company, and the rest is Europe and the rest of the world.
Right. And so one of the bigger questions that VCs are dealing with themselves, especially I know in Palo Alto, is this question of deal flow. And how do you even get access to the right entrepreneurs? What is that like for you here in Italy?
Yeah, I think that overall, that any VC has his own DNA of being positioned in the market and being perceived in the market. That's something that for a long time, even the strongest VC neglected the idea of being able to position themselves, which is not the case. Every VC has a DNA and is perceived from the outside. So I think if you look at United Ventures, somehow is perceived like the de facto VC if you want to go and build from Italy an international base and mindset companies. And that's where our sweet spot is compared to the other VCs we have in Italy. Mm-hmm. Because we have been building upon this thesis from a long time. We have been funding smart entrepreneurs that show that there is a path starting from Italy and building global company. And then this is something that basically we own as a position.
Right. And so share with me a little bit about the relationship that you have with the entrepreneurs once they're with them, because you're mentioning a lot of locals that are thinking about global companies, but that requires a lot of role models and mentorship, right? Especially if the industry is not yet, doesn't have the anchors inside of it.
That's pretty true. I started the idea of doing venture capital by the idea of working with the entrepreneurs. So the reason why I like this job is working with the entrepreneurs. Of course, in the venture capital, you have to do many things, different things. You have to raise money, you have to manage a partnership, manage investment manager. There is a lot of management work to be done. But the most important part is the work you do with the entrepreneurs. And that's the reason why I started this job. In particular, when I started, in reality, in Europe, venture capital was more perceived like an asset class instead of, an industry supporting entrepreneurs. So there were a lot of formal managing of processes, contracts, and stuff like that. And little attention was paid to the real value-added value that you do with the entrepreneurs. So when I started, I started with the idea of work with the entrepreneurs. That is the thing that I was doing when I was an angel investor as well. So the idea was combining the formal process of VC, the backing of LPs, together with this hands-on approach with the entrepreneurs, which is de facto pretty obvious in many parts of the world. but not still very, very common in many places. I think still venture capital is pretty formal in that sense. And working with entrepreneurs is what differentiates, I think, one VC to the other.
Right. So tell me a few companies that you're working with. You have like hundreds of millions of dollars under management. You're backing some really cool companies. Share with me some specific ones that, just for context.
So, we started, basically United Venture was born by investing in a company called Money Farm, which is London-based asset manager. And that's basically when there was not even fintech world out there. So nobody was thinking that the asset management was one of the key sector and fintech as well. And that was in 2013. Now, that said, to show that we like to be very early on the thesis. We don't like to follow momentum investing theses which are over hyped. For instance, we like to invest pretty early in the sector. So another example I can make: we invested in a cybersecurity company focused on firmware cybersecurity, which is very specific. There are 3 companies in the world doing that, and one is Israeli, of course. And we invested in farm technologies. So technology will help digitize the process of farming, for instance. We did it a couple of years ago when actually there were very few funds covering that sector. We invested in a company which is doing software simulation for pharma and medical devices industries. Funny enough, we realized how important is the pharmaceutical industry, but still they are not using the same amount of software that other industries are using. So if you are flying on a plane or driving a car, there is a lot of software simulation involved in deploying that kind of model. This software is not used for developing drugs, for instance.
Right.
And so we invested in a company which is trying to capture that kind of initiative. So just to name some of the theses we are very keen on.
Now, this idea of investing before the market, right? And going against the grain or saying, there's a lot of momentum somewhere, but we actually believe something a little bit else and we want to be unique. That's a really scary thing to do, right? I'm guessing as a venture capital. Isn't it?
Actually, I think ultimately is the DNA of venture capital, because otherwise, if it's purely momentum investing, it's pure amount of money to be deployed, then you become an asset manager. That moment you become an asset manager. If you are an early stage investor, you can not afford to be an asset manager. I think you have to be early in showing funding the right entrepreneurs in the sector you want to be. Actually, it's not very different from what I've done back in 2000. I was working in established industry. I was corporate there, and I had all the perks and the salary. When I left to join startups back in 2000, everybody was questioning why I was doing that, and everybody still was questioning when I left Google to become an angel investor. And it's part of the same thinking. I think you see something happening, and you would just want to be part of that.
Amazing. So if you're looking at the Italian ecosystem right now and the different entrepreneurs that are there, what are some patterns that you think, what is the room for growth? So where is the next milestone to reach as a country, as an ecosystem together, not a specific startup?
Sure. I mean, if you look at the pattern by which an ecosystem develops over time, it's pretty similar in Europe. The path is it happened the same way in different countries. So first and foremost, you need a strong lead investors at the beginning, which somehow is publicly involved. That same thing is happening in Israel with the US, I think. And it happened in Spain, it happened in France, it happened in the UK. So you need to show that there is commitment from the government by supporting this industry and lowering the risk of private capital. Then, of course, over time, private capital will overcome the public money and the public can stay away from the market. But at the beginning, it's very important to show that there is strong belief that is the way to go. And actually, in Italy, it's happening the same way. So we had a strong local lead investor, which is CDP, like the National Promotion Agency, that show that there is a big commitment on that. And over time, private money is coming and basically getting more share of the overall investing venture capital amount of money deployed on a yearly basis. And that's basically what happened across the board.
Now, is it a common or a mainstream thought? I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to grow up in Milan or in Rome, and after university, I'm going to create my own company.
Yeah, it's becoming across the board. That's not like typical Italian, typical Israeli. I mean, in Israel, it's pretty evident, but it's becoming de facto. If you look back in the 90s, everybody was willing to go banking and live in London. That was the topic. Now is everybody is willing to do tech entrepreneurs wherever. And because there are hubs, there are national hubs, continental hubs, and world hubs, hubs of technology. And this idea of becoming a technology entrepreneur is definitely common in the world. I don't think it's a trait of a country or a city. It's definitely something, I would say, generational.
And how dramatically has this changed over the last 10 or 15 years here? Because you've been here for a while.
Yeah, it has changed dramatically. So still 10 years ago, people were still willing to go and work for consultancy company, big banks. Nowadays, the most talented people that you want to, or either to join or start their own company.
Right. Now, to take me back to 2009. So you mentioned that you left a big corporate, very successful position, country manager for Google, and to become an angel investor.
Yeah.
Going to the other spectrum, what was the thinking process in your mind? And I'm trying to get into your brain now. What is your thinking process? And you're saying, you know what? I think I want to make an impact somewhere else right now.
I think it's always the same path. So you start thinking on what's next and you try to anticipate what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. And I kind of envision this idea of the technology industry to become bigger and more important for societies. And so the demand for venture capital will have grown eventually over time. But what kind of venture capital? A different kind of venture capital. Venture capital being able to work on with the entrepreneurs and helping them scale the company. And you cannot do that if you don't ever had that kind of problem, which are hiring, firing, raising money.
Right.
Those are, I would say, operational problems. If you look from a purely, I would say, abstract perspective of being an asset manager, that's very difficult for you to deal with the entrepreneurs. So that was the idea. And I just think that I had a great time at Google. It was the experience of my life from a professional standpoint. But my mind was always thinking about what's next. And that was the path for me.
An entrepreneur by nature, from what I'm hearing. So, Massimiliano, I really want to go back a little bit in time to your childhood. I want to understand a little bit about your upbringing. So what really fascinated you as you're growing up? So what is it? I'm trying to understand what leads a person to do and get to the point where we're at now in the center of Milan in these beautiful offices. What fascinated you?
I mean, I always think about what have a great impact. So you can have a great impact by being a politician, a doctor. You can choose whatever profession you have. But at the end of the day, there are people who definitely need to have an impact, and people who are fine just following what's going on. And this is somehow differentiating between people. And I always been fascinated by those kind of people who are really looking forward to have a great impact. Whether you are in every profession, you can have those kind of people. And those are the people who challenge society somehow, who see things before and put society in a different situation, because changing doesn't come easy, never come easy. Nowadays, it's much more accepted, I would say. But in the past, that was not the case. So all the people who are driving the change were questioned by society. And they find themselves in a very difficult situation. And sometimes you really have to challenge your life in order to sustain your beliefs. And that's something that has always fascinated myself. I just wrote a book a couple of years ago around those divergent thinkers who are the one who had an impact in society. And we are in Italy, and basically if you study Leonardo da Vinci, he was a divergent thinker by nature. He wasn't happy with the explanation he was getting from the people around himself. So he questioned everything and redesigned the reality in order to fit his views.
Amazing. And what inspires you today? So as you're deciding to continue, you raised your third fund, amazing fund. What inspires you to keep on going and to keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is always the same one. When we started this one, nobody was believing in Italy that we could have done what we were doing, because everybody was challenging. It can happen in Italy. Why in Italy? Well, we are not good at that, which is, I find it very stupid, by the way. But even the people from outside Italy was not thinking that in Italy could have done that. I was talking with my friend in the United States. There was a technology in Italy. Why don't you just focus on cars or in food, on this kind of things? So whenever technology basically become a layer for every kind of industry, that you understand that it was not the case. And of course, now it's pretty evident that entrepreneurship can come from anywhere. You don't have to be everybody located in one single place in order to get venture capital and to scale company.
100%. And what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Well, I would say it can be pretty evident that I combine a couple of things, but I have to be passionate. If I'm not passionate, I cannot drive results. I'm very curious, and basically I like to challenge everything. So I don't take for granted almost anything.
Massimiliano, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. Take care. Best of luck with the fun, and this is amazing.
Thank you very much.